Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Lori Goldman on For the Sake of the Argument. Tell your friends and family on all social media platforms they can catch For the Sake of the Argument. Today's guest is Andy Buchsbaum. He's with Oil and Water Don't Mix, and they are primarily involved in shutting down Line 5 and stopping the construction of the Embridge tunnel. I know I tell you this all the time. I really mean it. My mind is blown. Listen to what he has to say and try to sleep tonight. I bet you won't be able to. But we don't have to let this shit go down. You're going to reach out to Governor Whitmer and you're going to tell her, stop Line 5, stop the Embridge tunnel. And if you don't do that, you don't love Michigan like I do. Thanks for joining us. Andy Buchsbaum, you're with Oil and Water Don't Mix. Thank you for coming on For the Sake of the Argument today. Your organization has been focused on shutting down Line 5, an oil pipeline running from Canada to Michigan. Can you explain what Line 5 is and why Line 5 is such a risk and the current status of your fight?
First, it's great to be here. I'm glad you're doing the work that you're doing to make sure that people know what's going on and act on it. Wonderful. This is a great issue for that. Line 5 starts in Canada, runs through Michigan, and then back to Canada. Most of the oil it carries goes from Canada to Canada, and it drops off some, about 30% in the U.S. It goes directly through the Great Lakes. It goes underneath the Straits of Mackinac, carries up to 23 million gallons a day of oil.
Incredible.
And the bottom of the Straits of Mackinac, which is one of the most sensitive places in the Great Lakes. It does this, it's a 73-year-old pipeline. Pipelines as this are rated to last about 50 years. It's 23 years past the normal expiration date of a pipeline. It's been hit by anchors already twice. It's been dented, it's been pulled out of line. It's got coatings that have been degraded. It's the bottomlands underneath the line have eroded, so it's hanging in places, just suspended over nothing. This is a disaster waiting to happen. The Great Lakes are 85% of the country's surface freshwater, and to have this pipeline with a risk of rupture like that right in the middle it's like a ticking time bomb. And I'm not the one who coined that phrase. The person who coined that phrase was Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. It's been dinged by anchors or dented by anchors. It's not aligned as it should be. It's almost 25 years past its shelf life. Has there ever been any oil escaping the line in any small portion at all?
There's been plenty of oil that escapes the line, but not in the Straits. Upstream, there have been multiple ruptures, multiple leaks for Line 5, and downstream. And of course, the company that owns and operates Line 5 is the same company responsible for the Kalamazoo River oil spill in 2010. That's the largest inland oil spill, one of them in history. And so this line so far, we've been very lucky. It's been a miracle that this line hasn't ruptured in the Straits because there have been leaks all the way along in other places. Go back to 2010. Embridge has a rupture in the Kalamazoo River in one of their pipelines, Line 6B. It happens overnight. It's right after the big rupture in the Gulf of Mexico, so people are paying attention to these things now. But this is 1 million gallons that spills into Talmadge Creek, and then goes to the Kalamazoo River. Embridge had alarms, signals in its command center saying that this pipeline had ruptured. And yet it not only did nothing for 17 hours, it decided that instead of a rupture, this must be an air bubble that was in the line, and it pumped more oil through the line. So this is a complete disaster.
So shutting it down would have stopped more millions of gallons.
Yes, it would have made 1 million gallon spill into a couple 100,000 gallon spill and made cleanup easier. Cleanup was over $1 billion. So this is the company we're dealing with now.
Who paid for the cleanup?
Embridge did, and the federal government. There was a federal,
which means the taxpayers in the
did.
end.
Yes. So I was the head of National Wildlife Federation's Great Lakes office at the time, and one of our staff people, whose name is Beth Wallace, who had no background in pipelines at all, her family lived nearby, and she jumped in a van and ran out there and began renting kayaks with another colleague going up and down the river, pointing to people where the problems were, and became kind of the face of the resistance for Line 5. Now, Beth has since become the Erin Brockovich of pipelines. I mean, she's amazing. And what she did after that was she went back and said, well, this can't be the only pipeline they have. Where else do they have pipelines? And she found Line 5. No one knew Line 5 existed until Beth, based on what had happened in Kalamazoo, based on her experience there, said, we got to do some more research. Where else do they have pipelines? And she found that they had an even bigger pipeline on the bottom of Straits of Mackinac in 2012.
So before 2012, how long has it been there?
Since 1953.
So nobody was aware for all those years, decades.
It had been there for almost 60 years before anybody besides Embridge was aware, and the federal regulators who told nobody. So Beth found out, and then that's when this campaign began. Then we began saying, well, wait a minute, this has to come out. Pipeline has to come out. And she and we all worked on getting Governor Snyder to order it to be removed. And initially he wanted to be removed, but then he came up with this idea of having this tunnel and said, we can leave it in there until the tunnel is built. And then through Beth's and others' actions, that's when we were able to get Governor Whitmer, candidate Whitmer, and candidate Nessel to make this a part of the campaign platform. But this all began in 2012. And we thought when the governor and the AG came in and the governor made her order and the AG brought them to court, that we'd won, right? Because that means that this line's going to shut down. Again, that was 7 years ago. It's still going, and now we're still stuck in federal court. So we need to unstick it. And the only way to do that is through citizen pressure, through people rising up and saying enough is enough. This is too dangerous for our Great Lakes, for our way of life. It's too dangerous for our children, for our climate, and it's too much of an insult to the tribal peoples who were buried there.
Why is it still there when it's 20-something years over when it should be? Why? What would the protocol be? Would you be okay if somebody said, listen, we're going to replace that line with something that's going to last another 50 to 100 years?
Well, we do want that line shut down because it's so risky. It doesn't need to be replaced because we actually, in this country, and even in Canada, don't need the oil and the natural gas liquids that produce propane that it transports. There are alternative ways of transporting that oil right now. We don't have to build anything new. There's other pipelines. There's a waterborne transport that doesn't go through the Great Lakes. And there's also existing rail that can more than take up all the oil that right now goes through Line 5. So we don't need another pipeline. What we need to shut this one down and let other transportation options take their course.
Well, excuse my French, but why the fuck are we all fighting over it then if we don't need it? Why is it there? Because I think it is a ticking time bomb. Who wants it there? Who benefits from it staying there, pumping those 1,000 billion gallons every day? Who benefits?
The primary beneficiary is Embridge, the company that runs it. Over $1.5 million a day in profits. That's a huge incentive to keep that line running. The government of Canada is a big fan of Line 5 because it wants to expand oil export. This is what it's used for. It's used to transport oil that goes to export from Canada. This is a big moneymaker for the government of Canada, and so it wants to include it.
But aren't they getting most of it back or something when you were saying that earlier?
They get the oil back, but if you shut down the line, they won't get as much back. The oil will come from places in the U.S. In fact, if you shut down Line 5, clean energy benefits, and U.S. oil producers benefit because you replace the Canadian oil with U.S. oil. So
Wow.
You're right, it is crazy. There are some unions a few unions that believe that their jobs are tied to Line 5. A lot of that is simply propaganda by Embridge. There's going to be way more jobs generated by clean energy. There's way more jobs generated by shutting down Line 5. That's going to be a process that generates jobs as well. So really, there isn't any benefit for anybody in Michigan to keeping Line 5 open, and very few benefits for those in Canada. It should be shut down, but Embridge has done a great job with propaganda.
Well, and Embridge has probably politicians in their pocket. They're able to afford lobbyists. Everybody's getting greased along the way because this has been going on for a long time. Off the top of my head, tell me if I'm wrong. Our Attorney General Dana Nessel is engaged in lawsuits regarding Line 5. Is that correct?
That's right. So Attorney General Nessel has done a phenomenal job. She came in on a platform of shutting down Line 5, and she stuck to her word, and she has really pushed that forward. Governor Whitmer came in on a platform of shutting down Line 5. And though it took her a year, she has so far been true to her word in trying to shut down the existing line. She actually issued an executive orders, a notice of violation for Embridge that ordered that line shut down. That's unprecedented. No governor has ever attempted to shut down an existing line, and she did it. And she would have succeeded, except Embridge took both of them, the Attorney General and the Governor, to court, and has been stalled there now for what, 5 years? No, 7 years, sorry. 7 years of legal shenanigans has stalled that shutdown order.
Do you think there's as much pressure being put forward out of the governor's office about this?
So the governor's office has been solid on this so far. Where the conflict is right now, and the big decisions are now, is on whether there is going to be a tunnel, this crazy idea for this huge tunnel, 21-foot wide tunnel.
The Embridge tunnel?
The Embridge tunnel that goes underneath the Straits of Mackinac, 50 to 100 feet below the bottom of the Straits, that would somehow replace Line 5. And not only is the tunnel not needed, that's another disaster waiting to happen. It's a risk to the Great Lakes. It's a piece of 99-year fossil fuel infrastructure. We're going to be stuck with that oil for 99 more years, despite all the clean energy advances. And it's a disaster for tribal burial grounds. These are densely populated, if you will, areas of tribal remains where the Embridge would be just digging up some of the most sensitive tribal ancestral grounds anywhere in the country. So this tunnel is a terrible idea, and yet it's moving forward. The tunnel, Governor Whitmer has not taken a position. She's been silent on the tunnel, and one of her agencies actually approved one of the permits for the tunnel. The permits for the tunnel are coming up in the next month, actually the next few weeks. The government agency, Eagle, the agency that approves these things, is about to make a decision. This is where people can apply pressure right now. And that is contact the governor particularly and say, we don't want the tunnel. We don't want Line 5. It's time to shut the whole thing down and go to other sources.
Yeah, because if we don't need it, and if we care about the billions that Michigan brings in from tourism, fishing industry, et cetera, that's all going to go away. And Michigan's not going to be the jewel that it is if something horrific like that happens. Why would the governor be silent? What's the motivation there? Her term is up, right? She has a reasonable reputation after 8 years.
Right.
So what's the motivation? And let me even overtalk you some more. I worry about whomever's elected to the next Attorney General office, because Dana Nessel has fought for 8 years.
Yeah.
Is our next Attorney General, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, going to carry on her lawsuit and her fight against this?
So that's a great question. Can I take the second one first?
You can do
about the
whatever
Attorney
you
General?
want.
All right. It's absolutely critical and imperative for the next Attorney General. If it's particularly if it's Ellie Savitt, who's the Democrat who's nominated, absolutely critical for the next Attorney General to carry this on. As much progress as we made, it could evaporate in a heartbeat if an Attorney General comes in and says, we're not going to do the lawsuit anymore. We're not going to continue to try to stop Line 5. There's, at that point, little to nothing that anybody else can do to stop all the litigation from being dismissed and to give Embridge a free pass to the Great Lakes. So the Attorney General race is incredibly important, and it's incredibly important that we get commitments from both candidates, from both parties, to maintain the battle against Line 5 and the battle for the Great Lakes. So that's absolutely imperative, and we don't know where the candidates are on that, and we need to find out.
Wait. Why don't you know? Don't the candidates tell us where they stand on these issues?
At least we have not found out anything from the Republican candidate, and the Democratic candidate, Ellie, has been less than forthcoming in terms of where he stands on Line 5 and particularly on the tunnel. And that's important that he take a stand, and he take a stand for the Great Lakes.
Yeah, I think people would find it important.
Yeah.
From both the Republican and our Democratic nominee.
And let me go back to your question
Yes,
about
please.
the governor. She's been, as I said, she's been a champion when it comes to shutting down the existing lines. When it comes to the tunnel, so far she's had a hands-off attitude. She said, let my agencies do the job and let's see what happens. And that's not inappropriate, right? Agencies have to consider the facts and make a decision on the facts and the law. But we're now at the point where we're hoping we get a good decision out of Eagle in the next 2 weeks. In regardless, we want her to make her public position known that she stands for the Great Lakes, she stands with the tribes, and she stands for clean energy. She's got this phenomenal clean energy plan, climate action plan. That all goes down the tubes if Line 5 stays in operation for the next 99 years.
You know what? I've heard about Line 5 forever, and I've never really understood it as much as I do now. And ignorance is bliss, though. You know, knowing this, I think we have to all wake up about it because we all love Michigan. So the governor needs to hear our voices? Who else? Our Democratic nominee for Attorney General, the Republican nominee for Attorney General.
Yep.
Who else can we talk to?
Jocelyn Benson, the Democratic candidate for governor, definitely needs to hear. We're not sure who the Republican candidate for governor is going to be, but it's important that they hear as well. There's Ellie Savitt, really important that he hears. And of course, the governor herself. Yeah, she's a lame duck. Yeah, in the sense she's not running again. We don't know what her next political plans are going to be. And I think that it would be incredibly damaging for her legacy for this tunnel to be built and then for it to collapse.
Oh, I think it would be destructive.
Think
it
about
would destroy her legacy.
Think about that.
Yeah.
She would be known as the governor
That's right.
that has the collapsing tunnel.
The Flint water, what's his name, times a billion. Yes.
Yeah, yes. And the problem with this tunnel is that it's actually likely to collapse. Can I go into for a minute why the tunnel's so bad?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We talked about the tribal remains a little while ago. That's a huge issue, right? Because you're digging up hundreds or more graves to build this tunnel, and you can't relocate these bones,
because it's
right?
not just underwater; it's also on the land.
It's the graves are on the land. They found them on the land particularly on the north side. So that's one thing. Let's look at the climate impacts, right? You've got a tunnel that's going to last for 99 years that transports fossil fuels, oil, natural gas liquids. That tunnel is going to create its own demand. Once it's built, the transportation is much cheaper than if you're trying to do transportation through rail or through boat or others for clean energy or building new pipelines. And so what you're doing is by basically subsidizing that tunnel, you're subsidizing fossil fuels for the next century.
You're closing out clean energy.
You're closing out and doing so, yes. Then you get the Great Lakes, right? There's methane gas that they found in the rock formations near the tunnel, where the tunnel would flow through. Methane gas is an explosive. This tunnel is going to be a 21-foot cylinder that's filled with air so people can get in and out and service the pipeline with a 3-foot pipeline inside it. Any spark creates an explosion that would blow out both sides of the tunnel, blow up into the Great Lakes, and create incredible rupture. It even could endanger the existing Line 5. That's methane gas. This tunnel will be the highest pressure tunnel of that scope of anywhere in the world. It's operating under 17 atmospheres of pressure. That's like really super deep sea diving. And it was designed to be built in bedrock, very stable rock that would resist those pressures. But it's not in bedrock. The rock down there is porous. It's like oatmeal. So you're drilling a tunnel through oatmeal in 17 atmospheres of pressure, using this huge tunnel boring machine to do it. In the past, in other places, those tunnel boring machines have gotten stuck with cave-ins. The only way to get them out is to come up from the top. You can't do that if you're under 300 feet of water. So this is a complete disaster waiting to happen. And the idea that this could be saddled around Governor Whitmer's neck, hung around her neck as an anchor, it's a terrible idea. And she's done many good things for the Great Lakes and the environment. And you're right. This would eclipse all of them.
And this is just for the pursuit of profit by a limited number of capitalists.
Yes, it is for the pursuit of their profits. Now, Embridge will say that, oh, we need the oil and we need the propane. Embridge has said that without Line 5, Upers will freeze in the dark because they won't be able to get the propane that comes from natural gas liquids. Well, that's ridiculous. There's already alternative sources of propane, and there's plenty of ways to get propane to the UP for the same costs. And so that's just fomenting hysteria, but they've got a lot of money for their PR machine, and they've been able to sell that to members of the public who aren't paying otherwise attention. But even more importantly, they've been able to sell it to members of the legislature who they've given a lot of money to.
Yeah, that's the sad thing, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the real sad thing. I'm such a skeptic now, and I feel so defeated by all we've been going through, even in the last 8 years. What do we do? I mean, who's going to be able, if we did bring 10,000 Michiganders to Ford to fight this, who would be pressured to stop? Do you think Enbridge would care? I mean, would anybody care? How many people is it going to take? I'm not saying we don't try it. Of course we do. But let's get militant here. What would really work?
What does it take? It takes a lot in a lot of different areas. I think that 10,000 people or however many thousand people coming out and saying to the governor and to the head of the Eagle agencies, to the head of the Michigan Public Service Commission, saying enough is enough. It's time to stop this madness. I think that would have an impact, and there's a venue for it to have an impact. There are 3 decisions being made in the next month that are going to be critical for whether this tunnel goes through. The first one is the Michigan Supreme Court, and public pressure doesn't directly affect them, but and the brief's already in place, but assuming they remand this back to a state agency, it does affect the state agency. Public pressure does. The second, there are 2 permits coming out of Eagle, which is the Michigan agency that makes these decisions. And Eagle, although it's supposed to make the decision on the merits only, and we hope that it will, is also subject to political pressure and also can be overruled by the governor. So these 2 decisions are coming in the next month. The 2 decisions are going to be, does Embridge have a permit to operate the tunnel? There's 2 different permits they need. This is it. The next month is it. People come out in big numbers. People contact the governor in big numbers. They contact Eagle in big numbers. That is going to have an impact.
If people reach out to your organization, Oil and Water Don't Mix,
Yeah.
would they get some guidance about where to go, when to go, how to get? Okay.
And I'll tell you one quick thing. June 30th is the last day for public comment on one of the permits. Now, that doesn't mean you don't comment otherwise, but formally that means you can public comment in one of the permits before Eagle. After that, all the communication should go to the governor.
How many people comprise Eagle?
Oh, Eagle's got several thousand employees, but there's
this committee that's going to make a decision.
Maybe a dozen.
Okay, so a dozen people. And how are they appointed?
They're mostly hired. The director is appointed by the governor.
So if that gets screwed up, then our last chance for some kind of relief is through the governor.
Yes, and I would actually say our best chance for relief right now in terms of people power is through the governor.
So people should just start reaching out to the governor's
Yes.
office.
Yes.
All right. I don't remember how to do that anymore, so.
It's on the Oil and Water Don't Mix website.
Okay.
oilandwaterdon'tmix.org.
Oil and water don't mix.org. All right, people, write that down. Turn off your TV, go write it down, and let's reach out to the governor and tell her to do the right thing. Or do the fucking right thing, whichever way you want to put it.